Welcome back to Counting Thoughtz podcast, and welcome to those who are here for the very first time. We are here counting all our big thoughts, small thoughts, random thoughts, all this to bring change, one thought at a time. He's Yasha, and
I
I'm
am
Anmol.
Yasha and this is Anmol. Hi people! I want to take this moment to thank all the global listeners because apparently the global listener base is growing and
It's growing and it makes us happy.
and sometimes overwhelmed but happy. There are a lot of people listening to a lot of the conversations that we are doing and we're just glad. And one such conversation is going to be privileges. So we're discussing privileges today. But then because Anmol is Anmol and research is research, so she said that I'll Google like what are the different kind of privileges that probably we could discuss. So from the first list that's there on Google, there are few privileges. We knew that we had examples and instances that we would discuss when it comes to privileges, but we did not know the names of
it, and we wanted to inculcate something that we might miss and we did not want to miss because if we are discussing it.
This is based on our experience and what stuff we've read across. Let's just begin and see how it goes.
I'm keen on discussing this passport privilege, but I was like, ooh,
ये क्या
this
है?
is something I was
मेरे
not
पासपोर्ट पे
aware
क्या
about.
privilege है?
क्या privilege है, क्या privilege नहीं है? Is there something I'm missing on just because of the different geographical location or the place I was born in?
There are obviously, I think this is very common knowledge that somebody who carries a US passport, visas,
They could move freely in comparison to people from. You can travel easily.
I think there are. If you have a US visa, even if you have a travel visa,
it is easier to get visa for
other countries. Yes, it's easier. So that's one.
That's a passport privilege you have if you are a US.
Do you?
holder.
Since we could. I don't know about how privilege works when it comes to, because I think there are technical things attached with the US. I think it could be it's a developed nation, it's a first world nation, so probably it's something related to that.
Yeah. Actually, in the research, it was written that people who are actually they are benefited birthplace wise or geographically or the area they are living in right now or passport privileges. We can inculcate all of these in one category of the boxes. So if you are from a first world country or if you're a first world nation, comparatively you are privileged because if you are traveling globally, it is easier for you to get all the documentation. It also said that somehow because you are doing economically and socio-economically better. This is another one, but I'm inculcating it for a reason. Why? Because if you are socio-economically better, if you're from a first world country, what happens is you are able to comparatively present yourself better. The research said that if there are two people, there are two criminals, and there's one person who is socio-economically better than the other one, the default behavior is that if the crime has whatever XYZ crime is there, so the person who is from the first world country or have a better socio-economic status has not done it and the other one has done it, even though they don't have a proof.
I think this is a good segue into our next privilege that I wanted to discuss, was pretty privilege. So if somebody looks a certain way, if you look pretty, actual research.
There's an actual technical research to it, and I was somehow not happy
and
with
Mol
it.
shared it with me.
You get a 10x more better job opportunity
Based on how you look.
and it pissed me off.
The way you're born is not something, you cannot take away
The features
you're born with or the ethnicity that you're born in, but I would obviously consider appearance, but I think for me it would also be how they carry themselves. But then that is me. There is like a friend, he was looking for a bride, for a wife.
For the guy.
Yes,
Yeah.
for a partner. So he told me that in one meeting, because you will meet her once, what do I look at? I will look at how she looks.
The initial thing is that you see the person.
Her appearance is what I would look at. I would probably see her education or body language and maybe her family background. Because in the first meeting, I don't know what her personality is. I cannot gauge what her personality is. And for me to be able to look at or get to the part where I see her personality, that road comes through she has to appear pretty to me. So that is the day I realized that although we say that you don't have to judge the book by its cover, but then it is utter bull crap. We do judge the book by its cover.
We do intentionally or
unintentionally. We do.
Even I myself.
Right? And so is with jobs as well. When you go to an interview, because I've taken interviews, I will look at people. For me, I would be I would deduct points if they don't
present themselves well.
Yes, I have done that. And you can accuse me of that I've done that. So what capacity are you hiring in? So because I was working and I was supposed to hire people for front-end sales jobs as well. In a sales job, the way you look adds on to at least a 10%, if not more, of your conversions, because you have to look a certain way, present yourself a certain way to be able to convince the other individual that you got your shit together.
It's jobs. It's unfair, but it's
a job requirement. And I don't know how it is otherwise globally. A standard sales job, there is a certain age cap to it. I was a manager. I know from experience that there were people who were elder to me and they had families, both men and women. The conversations that were happening behind their back, they would sometimes become very derogatory and very demeaning because they've aged or they've had kids and they now look a certain way. They have grey hair or stuff like that, just based on how they look. And it saddened me, but then it sort of was the reality of that sector. The prettier you are, the higher your chances of success.
It does happen, and I think this is the perfect point to pivot to age privileges.
Hoti hain.
I'm not saying that if you're elder you have there are certain privileges attached to younger generation, and there are certain privileges attached to the.
So there are as an elder sibling, I've had many privileges just because I am the older one, and I have seen my younger sibling have privileges that I don't have just because they're younger. For instance, I have a certain say in the decision making of the family, and I've had it since a very young age, just because
it's elder age privilege.
Yes, I've had that.
You have a good say कि हम बड़े हैं तो.
I got that privilege sooner than my brother got it. I think I was not even 19. I've had that privilege since then. I think probably that poor chap started to get that privilege to have a say in the decision making of the household when he turned 25, 26. So that was a huge difference. Huge difference.
No, that's actually true. I think the similar things have happened.
But then he has had privileges, like he could do
stupid mistakes,
and I would always be there as a filter between him and my parents. And just because I was the elder one and I was doing things first. So say suppose I want to pursue a creative field or a creative art form. For me, convincing my parents was difficult because I was the elder one, and for them it was difficult to understand because for them it was happening for the first time. But at the same time, if my brother decided to do something, it was easier for us to convince my parents because they had already seen me do it. Just as a skill form also. I think I was a very adamant child, and during my breaks or vacations I did not want to sit back home. I don't know how to ride a bicycle yet, but Chandigarh, people know how to ride a bicycle. It is very normal. I was living in a hill station. It was not normal for us to learn how to cycle. So but then what do you do the entire day? I could not watch television. I was not very fond of it. So I told my parents that, teach me how to, like, I would take art lessons, or I will take embroidery lessons, I will take knitting lessons, all the shit lessons,
creative artistic skills
that I could probably think of, fathom, like, you name it. If it would include me going there, learning that, and coming back, I would do it. It was difficult for me to convince, because my parents, for them it would be a hassle, because I am still a child, right? How would I travel? So, like, I'll travel, just let me do it. Like, I'll manage on my own. So I still don't know how to swim, because when I brought it up to my parents, the first discussion that I had with my mom was that I want to learn swimming, and she's like, people pee in the pool. And she grossed me out there and then. Within 10 minutes, I was grossed out to my core. But my brother told her that I want to learn swimming. It's a skill. And she was like, okay, because I had already bought that up, and although I did not do it because I was grossed out. And but he was able to do it because they were already aware of this idea of their child trying to learn swimming. So it became easier for him. So things were easier for him and difficult for me, just because I had to do that. I had to pave a way for him to do things.
I would agree, but in a sense, like, if the people living in the city life and the mountain life, when you were telling me, I think you were you had the privilege of learning skills like paint, because karo kya?
What do you do? But curriculum that we had was very different from the curriculum you had, because it used to snow very heavily.
So you used to have
we had longer vacations, but during the winters.
I was reading, you also have privileges if you're a younger one, because we always tend to relate the younger generation with pop culture, that the pop culture is for the younger generation, or what happens in hiring process also. Once you cross your 30s and 40s, we tend to think that this certain skill set might become obsolete in upcoming times, so the younger generation is preferred. So that is a younger generation privilege.
This younger generation privilege while you're working. So it's very sad when you hire people. The hiring manager would often ask you whether you're married or you're not, what plans do you have for marriage, what plans do you have for kids, and this is a question that would be asked generally to females and not males, which I think maybe we could start discussing gender privilege. There is one thing that I have come to realize of late, that so I have a friend in the society. She turns 14, if I'm not wrong, this 27th of July, and I hang out with her. We went on a museum date. It's fun. So her parents keep freaking out because she's a Blink, a Blackpink fan. She's into K-pop, all in all, and she's watching K-drama.
That's what younger generation.
And she's watching K-drama, and she's listening to all this, and she would come to me and she would rant, Didi, they don't understand. They keep telling me, ऐसा क्यों कर रही है, ये क्यों देख रही है, समझ तो कुछ आ नहीं रहा है, subtitle के साथ क्यों देख रही है. But had I been a guy, I don't think this friendship would have been possible, because even the purest intentions that a guy has will not be able to see fruition. There is a 7-year-old in my society. He keeps telling me that you wait, I will marry you.
He has a crush on you.
My automatic response is like, okay, you grow up and then you marry you.
Yeah.
Had I been a guy, I don't think I would have been able to say this to him.
Like, there are men privileges and there are men
disadvantages.
This is a disadvantage.
Not everyone is a pedophile.
Yeah.
Friend that I keep telling you about, she in her school she had this UNICEF MUN speech, and she needed my insight, and I was able to help her with that and help her prepare that speech and everything. And
so it's a two-way privilege. She has the privilege that she's comfortable enough to
ask
you for it, and it is a privilege for you as well that
I think this
is
is
a unique concept that has been inculcated.
this is
for
a
us.
cis privilege, I think.
Yeah.
That I mean, I think this will fall in that category because a friend of he says that Anmol gets to hang out with you and Paul gets to hang out with you, and you guys,
What?
you have sleepovers and stuff, but I don't get to do it as frequent and as mindlessly and carelessly because I am from the other gender. Even if there is a point difference, but then there is a difference, and that this is the exact example that he came up with. He says that you and Anmol decide that, oh, let's go to drive to the hills and stay the night randomly, without plan, without informing anybody. All you need to do is call your parents up and tell them मैं अनमोल के साथ कसौली जा रही हूँ, रात में होटल में रुक जाएंगे,
Station nearby.
रात में होटल में रुक जाएंगे, and that's about it. And your parents are like, okay, drive safe,
Like, how are you going? Everything's safe.
Drive
Let
safe.
us know once you reach.
and
Like, that is the entire conversation.
But then you cannot call them and tell them that मैं इस दोस्त के साथ होटल जा रही हूँ. Random.
You cannot.
You can't do that.
Like, I can do that with like, irrespective of the gender, I can do that. But that is the number of females have better privilege. The number of male friendships that I have. See, like, I think I can count them on my finger. My family would trust them that, okay, with this person,
You go anywhere and
You
you
go
hang out anywhere, and
it's exactly 3
Men.
Men, and I like 3 male friends who
And he
have
was-
that privilege.
And he was so pissed at this, that the fellow millennials that I have around me, I have seen them drop the mere bachpan mein bomb. Like, in my childhood, I used to go to parks and I used to play. These kids have ruined their childhood and they are playing PlayStation and they're not playing football.
It's
and
a different generation.
I think I've said this. Your parents
surroundings,
had different challenges. Your generation, I mean, our generation probably had COVID as a challenge. Maybe
There's a huge change.
the challenges that every generation has are different. Adaptability is not something that you can teach. It is something that you will learn, like,
While you grow.
while you grow. I mean, you will have to touch it when it is hot to learn that it is hot and you're not supposed to touch it. That is how your brain works, and that is how a lot of people function, and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, when I advise you, like for you also, when I keep telling you that Anmol, get up on time and do this and do that, manage your time, and be productive. I think I've come to realize that it comes off as me being very controlling.
You're trying. No, it might look controlling to a few people. I have known you for over a decade. I know that it is because you love me, and it is because you're protective of me.
But my core thought behind being productive is because I am lazy. I enjoy a lot of things that consume time. I enjoy reading, I enjoy writing poetry, and this is something that I enjoy. This is how I unwind. This is where my peace is at. So there's this saying that you do one for the kitchen and one for the soul. My sole aim to be productive is that whatever I'm doing for the kitchen happens in time, so that I can make time for the stuff that nourishes my soul. I don't want to be productive because I want to add more stuff. I want to be productive because I want to ensure.
You want to do things that make you feel.
That make me, yes, I mean,
What makes you feel? There's another privilege that I read here, and I was like, oh, what is this? I don't know that. So it's couple privilege.
But then we haven't discussed gender privileges, Pura. There are some few men privileges that they have because they are men.
They can go out at night. This is something I discussed. So we were sitting, and I had to go back home at 1 a.m. So my friend's sibling was like, Didi, do you want me to drop you or you go on your own? So I told him, my house is 5 minutes away. I will go on my own. He was like, are you sure? I'm like, you don't need to be concerned. So he was like, okay. So I told my friend that this is. So he kept quiet, and then this we were like 4 or 5 women there. So one of my friend of friends, she was like, this is something I don't like. This is, you are subtly aware that it is a male privilege, that if a male is going out at 1 a.m. it is safer. But if a female is going, even a male himself is concerned, oh, that my sister or someone or my loved one is going, and they tend to
freak out. I think there is one privilege working from home. I have come to realize that working from home सिर्फ लड़के कर पा रहे हैं, हम तो नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. Females are not working from
because we are working in home also.
She's like, my work has doubled because I have to like open the door for the कूड़ा वाला, I have to open the door for दूध वाला आ गया है, अब घंटी बज गई है. She's a teacher. The class is going on, पीछे से घंटियाँ बज रही हैं, सब हो रहा है.
Your schedule is getting disrupted because by default you think that they will go in.
I think Vidya Balan is having this discussion, which is so true. She's like that her husband is on the phone and she's on the phone, and she's like, the maid has sort of normalized. The servants and the maids have normalized that the maid can come to me and disturb me, but not go to my husband and
this
disturb.
Happened with my mom. Like this happened literally. My mother is a teacher. She was taking an online class. There was a worker who came in. So my dad was sitting idle watching television. My mom was in another room taking classes and I was in my room. So the worker went and knocked into my mother's room to ask question. But me and my dad, we are sitting idle. We are not working at the time. And he chose to go there. And then my mother was like, she literally yelled at him that I am taking a class. There are 2 more people in this house.
It's wrong because when I am in the house and say suppose my dad's in the house and my brother is in the house and my mom's in the house and say suppose my mom's working, right? So I went home, Abhi.
Mm-hmm.
I am talking to a client and the bell rang. And I immediately started feeling guilty. Oh shit, ghanti baji hai, kaun kholega? My mom's not there. They went, they opened, but then my first instinct was guilt of not being able to do the female duties of the household when my mom's not. Because we were in lockdown. And I was living in a flat, right? So, bagal wali society mein uncles are roaming chaddi man. Aunties are not roaming in chaddi man.
All in northern Indian men, I would categorize this in. I don't know any other.
They will wear chaddi.
You are in chaddi and banana, and I'm not saying it's. I understand there's a comfort.
It is not.
But don't roam around in your balcony when your neighbor is there. This is something I was keen on discussing. There are able-bodied privileges.
There are.
And like, if you have any sort of disability, big or small, there's a sort
any
of
sickness. If you have any sickness, there is a certain eerie feeling with it. Like even if you have an allergy, like people, you have like a semi-guava allergy, right? So
when I tell someone I cannot eat or drink, and I love guava.
The taste,
my childhood taste palettes are still there,
and you like. But then now, when you do eat guavas, I think it developed late. Your allergy
it
sort of developed late.
Either I cannot digest it, and earlier I couldn't digest it, and now my tongue also swollen. I'm like, because when I couldn't digest it, I still loved guava so much
that you ate
I
it.
used to still eat it, and then within 1 hour, if not 1 hour, 24 hours, I used to puke it out. So I used to still consume it because I used to love the taste, so the guilty pleasures, so to speak. But then it aggravated. Then
it has gotten worse.
I had to completely withdraw from it.
So I have an autoimmune disease and I've had it for over a decade now. I've been looked down upon because I have psoriasis. Generally what psoriasis the symptoms or the how psoriasis looks on your body is like a wound on your skin, and it could like it was undiagnosed for half a decade, and then I ate all sorts of wrong medicines for it, and then when it did get diagnosed, I was told that I had options to use immunosuppressants that would suppress my immune system basically, but then that would expose me to all sorts of other issues.
Right.
That, and my parents, me too, we were not up for that. Basically, where that leaves me is that I can manage my diet and I can manage the disease if not cure it. And a huge part of managing that disease is diet. Recently, it got bad. Like it was getting bad. Like anything that puts my body under stress. So it could trigger.
Anyone during the pandemic, everyone with autoimmune diseases
had it bad.
But worse than able-bodied.
Not to host a pity party,
but in comparison, because they had another thing to take.
My sister suggested that I could probably experiment with cutting lactose out of my diet. So I started to experiment with that. I've had no new eruptions. My old eruptions have gotten down, and I had to travel. This is when I had to travel a lot, like, and back and forth, like from a plane to a hill station, back and forth had to happen. Despite that, it did not
trigger.
Had I been traveling in my previous condition, it would have gotten bad.
Because I remember a person telling it to you ki
मुंह पे नहीं आना चाहिए.
Yeah.
And then it not coming to my face is the least of my worries, because like having a psoriasis scar is like having a wound that itches. I remember, I think 3 years back, I was working, and this very old lady came to me and asked me, was I beaten up or was I in an because I were in queue lots, and like suddenly she hosted a pity party for me. Because she did not, that there is not enough conversations that are happening around
skin conditions,
any issue for that matter. So she told me, who'd marry you, what would you do career-wise, this is such a bad thing to happen to a child your age.
Stranger.
A complete stranger. And then my manager was eavesdropping on this conversation, and she literally told me to wear pants, because she said that it does not look nice, and it does not appear nice. It looks gross, so hide it. I understand where she was coming from, because it was an awkward conversation for me also. It was an awkward conversation to have with a stranger. My friend, she has vitiligo. Recently, I think hafta pehle, she was told that like collect earthworms, mash them, make a paste out of them, and then apply on her, the white patches that she's getting. And I like legit told her that don't tell me all these gross stories, like keep those gross stories to you. And a random stranger told her this. These issues are visible. So like I get a scar that is visible. She gets white patches that is visible. There are people who have thyroid, and they are putting on weight and they cannot lose weight because.
So when I told them, they were like, you have to work out 3
times more, yes.
3 times more than a normal human being. And I was like, I've had mental breakdowns. I was like, how am I supposed to work out?
Because that is what I'm saying. Like, as somebody who has a medical issue, chronic or not, it plays a very important role.
It does. Because what I need to do is take care of my health.
Take care of
in a systematic and proper manner.
In a sustainable way. Because if you try to what your trainer, when your trainer told you that you need to work out,
their intent was to make me aware, I think, but I took it in a different sense.
Because we're talking about disabled people, there are people who have to depend on wheelchairs for instance. So the public buildings or the public places need to be accessible through a wheelchair.
They're trying, but it's really...
It's not up to 100%.
Like
it should be.
very basic example from yesterday. I went to the park and there's the ramp for the disabled people, and it was locked
because people might come and people take their Activas into the park.
So because of the able stupid people, including me, then we do such as taking Activas into those public cars, which is not allowed. It was locked, and people who actually disabled people who need to go to the park, the pathway is there, the facility is there, but they're not able to use it.
So I think, is there any more privilege that
There was this couple privilege that I read, and this is
stigma, social stigma. You will not face social stigma if you are in a relationship. In India, you will face a social stigma if you are in a relationship, then also. If you're not in a relationship, then also you will not face social stigma when you're married. Happily or unhappily, वो नहीं फर्क है. But if you're
there are other judgments too. That's a topic for another day. But
so thank you for listening to us.
And if you missed anything, I think we'd like you to comment below. Or
yes. Thank you for being
listening
here
to us, and thank you for being
watching us.
Yeah, watching us. Thank you for being so sweet with all the love you have been showering.
And yeah, we'll see you soon. The next episode.
Yeah. Bye.